Hello, welcome to episode 3 of Don't Touch the Beard, in which I video, document and then talk nonsense over the top of games of Guild Ball. Thank you very much to everyone that left me a load of comments on the last video about all the mistakes that I've made. It is genuinely very useful, and certainly the big takeaway that I want to take from everything that people have sent across is my lack of use of heroic plays, and that's certainly something I wanted to concentrate on this game. Speaking of this game, seamless segue, I will be playing my mate John, who was in the first video playing Masons, but learning that I was trying a new guild, he also wanted to try a new guild, so I picked up Fisherman for the first time, which meant that this game took 3 hours. But fortunately I speed the video up, so you'll see it in about half an hour, I imagine. Now, for those of you that remember, all of this learning of the Brewers is as a lead up to the release of the Blacksmith or Beardsmith guild when they're released, because I want them, frankly. And as of recording today, we've just had the third player announced, Furnace, and I'll pop the details of the card up at the back of this video so you can have a look, and also have a little bit of a chat on my first impressions of him at the end of this video. So that's bound to be still worth sticking around for. Equally, some other podcasts have just released a whole bunch of stuff on him if you want to go listen to that as well. That I'd understand. They're going to have like a whole tactical summaries and observations, whereas I'm just going to sit here going, he's got 5 swords that are on fire. Oh, one quick last thing. I'm playing around with superimposing snippets from the rulebook and character cards directly onto the video to try and increase the clarity of rules and of special effects that happen during the game. Let me know if this is useful, as it's considerably easier than typing it all out in the subtitles like I was doing beforehand. Right then, let's get started with team selection. That's a thing that people do. So I kept things very similar to the last game, and by similar I mean exactly the same. So I went with Tapper and Scum as my captain and mascot, whereas John went with Corsair and Tentacles. I went Mash, he took Kraken. I took Spigot, he took the Veteran Siren. Friday, Sakana, Hooper and Greyscales rounds out both of our lineups. So for initiative I rolled a 3. John in turn gets a 1, and I elect to receive. Insert your own joke here. And therefore, as the kicking player, John kicks off first. See, we paid attention. We've been reading the comments. We define terrain on the pitch as 2 bits of rough ground up at the top end and a barrier in the very centre, 2 pieces of obstructions and a bit of fast ground right down by the bottom. So Corsair gets us underway, jogging forward and kicking the ball straight up the centre of the pitch. It bounces in a fashion that John is not particularly happy with, and it scatters largely into a very, very similar position. So I allocate 1 to Hooper, 1 to Friday, 2 to Mash, 1 to Spigot and 2 to Scum, and due to the proximity of Tapper to Scum and the tactical advice rule, I decide to allocate 6 to Tapper rather than the normal 5 that he can have. Now this is exactly what I was talking about at the beginning of the episode, this picture-in-picture version of the rules. If you like this is what I'm referring to. Do let me know. I like it. Do you? In turn, Corsair gets 4, Tentaclay gets 1, Sakana gets 1, Kraken gets 3, and Greyscale gets 1, Vet Siren gets 2. I activate the big fat fatty, who by now we all know goes waddly waddly waddly. So Mash has got a sprint of 6, and it takes me about 4.5 inches to get within 1 inch of the ball, and I come back the other 1.5 inch, so just the other side of the wall. I then spend my last remaining influence to pass the ball to Spigot and spoon it horribly, causing the ball to scatter directly behind my goal line, which, as we then spent a bit of time looking up, shows that because I've kicked it behind my own goal line, I will not generate momentum as long as it's there. It sure would be handy if one of those rules things would suddenly appear on screen to show this. Oh, there it is. Look at that. God, that's pretty. Well, that works well. Anyway, Sakana activates and he jogs forward and throws out a smoke bomb, generating cover for him and his team. I activate Spigot, who tools up Tapper, making him a tool. I then go and retrieve the ball from behind my goal line so that I can start generating momentum again. Greyscales activates and jogs forward, putting up Decoy. I activate Friday, and unlike the last game, remember Shadow-like, so she makes a 2-inch dodge forward. I then jog up a little way and use Get Over Here Scum to cause Scum to make a dodge so that he moves closer across to Friday. Tentacles activates and jogs up between Sakana and Greyscales. He then spawns his point of influence to attempt to cast Blind on Scum, but thankfully the giant globule of coughed up ink dodges the brewery kitty cat. It's amazing how much you can learn through watching videos back and then editing and listening to people's comments. It's amazing how much you fail to pick up a tool. So I activate Scum and Shadowlike. I then charge Grayscales, who plays Brace for Impact, and he then buggers off, thanks to unpredictable movement. So we've both wasted a whole bunch of stuff. Look, there he goes. So he's wasted the plot card, I've wasted the Cat Pat, as I believe it's known. Yeah, well, idiots, the pair of us, swear to God. I then compound my idiocy further by activating Hooper, jogging him forward up to Friday and putting up Tough Skin. Now that seems perfectly reasonable activation for Hooper to do, especially at this early stage of the game. Of course, from the fact, it's not my go. It's not my turn. It's John's turn. I get a go, then he gets a go, then I get a go. It's a pretty basic part of the game. But no, neither of us noticed at the time, although we did wonder how he massively activated me first turn later on. But yeah, I'll just take another turn for no real reason. Siren activates and jogs forward, putting up Dread Gaze, putting up that horrible little aura of making attacks pretty ineffectual. So it's definitely something I need to be wary of going forward in this game, because naturally Brewers like to play a very strong, brawling style, and this could certainly hamper me. I activate taps and hard cast Commanding Aura, kind of accepting the failure of both the Pack Cat and the standoff of turn 1. Kraken activates and goes and walks up next to Corsair in the cover that Sakana created. This is the bit where we get confused as to how he's 2 activations ahead, but of course we know now it's because I used Hooper entirely at the wrong time. So Corsair jogs up and prepares to use Drag on Tapper. Great move, I think, here by John, trying to pull a support beat stick or a master, captain even, till I put too much Malifaux, out of position and away from the rest of my team. Really like this play. So with Tapper's defense of 3 and Drag's cost of 2, he only needs 1 3-up on 2 dice. It's highly likely, and in fact does happen. So I get a horrible sinking feeling that I'm about to lose my captain. So with Corsair's 6 tack versus my 3s and 1s defense, John manages a big fat nothing on the roll, and that sinking feeling happily drifts away. With the final influence of the turn, Corsair gets 3 net hits on from his tack 6 versus my 3s and 1s for a momentous 2 push, and he pushes me further round towards his line and into Sakana's melee range. So at the end of turn 1, it is 0-0 across the board, and the fish win the initiative, opting to go first. Now, before we head into turn 2, just want to highlight the rules for Come On Mate, mainly for my own benefit, because we massively get them wrong in this next coming turn. See if you can spot where. So going into turn 2, John allocates 6 to Corsair, none to Tentacles, 2 to Sakana, 2 to Kraken, none to Grayscales, and 2 to Vet Siren. I, in turn, give 5 to Tapper, none to Scum, 2 to Spigot, 1 to Mash, 2 to Friday, and 3 to Hooper. So Corsair activates, and with the influence of Sakana now on the fight, that is tack 7 versus 3s and 1s. I buy a counterattack, fairly confident that I can knock Corsair down, and oh irony of ironies, I get knocked on my arse myself. So Corsair buys another attack, and of course now I am on my arse. It is tack 7 versus 2s and 1s, so that is 5 net hits now for a momentous 3 push, bringing me even closer to the Fishman's line. And now Vet Siren's melee range will influence any further attacks. Oh, it's not looking good for taps. So now Corsair with his 3rd attack is tack 8 versus 2s and 1s for a 7 net hits. So that's another momentous 3 damage push, and then a 2. Now, of course, with Tough Hide, that becomes momentous 2 and 1 damage, but still, Tapper is taking a beating. So with that last push, I'm now in Kraken's melee range as well, so that's tack 9 versus 2s and 1s. 5 net hits, thankfully, for a momentous 3 damage and a push. Attack number 5 is again tack 9 versus 2s and 1s, and he gets 6 net hits, which is enough for a momentous 3 damage and a push. The wrap does nothing, as he can neither do 1 damage to me due to Tough Hide nor tackle me, as I don't have the ball. And thankfully with his last attack, again on tack 9 versus 2s and 1s, that is 5 net hits from Corsair from a momentous 3 push, which again is reduced by Tough Hide to 2. So Tapper's taken quite the beating in the first activation of turn 2. So with Tapper certainly not in a happy place at all, it makes a great deal of sense to activate him as early as possible in this turn, and that is exactly what I do. Now, I am, or rather he is engaged by Kraken, Corsair, Veteran Siren and Sakana. So with him being in 4 people's melee zones, turns, I am at -3 tack to whoever I decide to swing on first, because, oh yes, there will be swinging. So it makes perfect sense to me, and maybe to you too. If not, feel free to leave a comment below the table to hard cast Commanding Aura and get that up as fast as possible. So after all bonuses and negatives, I am tack 4 versus Kraken's 3s and O's. That gets me 4 net hits, which is enough for the momentous knockdown I need to start reducing melee zones. I then spend that point of momentum to immediately heal Tapper 4 wounds. Not such a great decision this time. I swing on Veteran Siren, who due to the presence of Kraken gains an extra point of defense, so he becomes 5s and O's. So that's tack 5 versus 5s and O's is 1 net hit for 2 points of damage due to the presence of Commanding Aura. Veteran Siren takes a counterattack. She is tack 6 versus Tapper's 3s and 1s and gets a 1 net hit, which is enough to push him away from being engaged by everyone, which is a real problem for me and a real poor decision for me to swing on her, as I'm now not able to knock down Sakana. What I really should have done was gone for Sakana first, knocked him down, and then used Vet Siren as my last target before turning my ire on Corsair. So Tapper is now tack 7 when attacking Corsair, because he's no longer credited out by anyone. So that is 4 net hits, which is enough for a momentous knockdown, which is ignored. Tapper swings again, and again he is tack 7 versus 3s and 1s, this time getting 5 net hits, and I elect for the momentous knockdown, putting the big man down on the floor. So Kraken activates and spends a point of momentum to clear conditions, jogs around within Tapper's melee range and throws a harpoon to try and drag Scum closer. So that's 2 dice, needing a 5 up on at least one of them, which he doesn't get, so fortunately poor old Scum doesn't get a harpoon in the face. Hope, hope. It's time for the hope to start swinging, so he charges in against the knockdown Corsair. This is bound to go well. Now I bonus time this charge to give myself an extra dice, when of course what I should have done is activate my heroic play for +2 tack. Foolish. Lots of additional rules on this one, which I'll get to in just a second, but that is tack 11, should have been 12, versus 2s and 1s for 9 net hits, which is a momentous 5 damage, and then 4 regular damage, both of which are reduced by Corsair's Tough Hide. And if they're not the same as what you're seeing on the playbook, that is because you must take into consideration the Commanding Aura and also the Shove the Boot in special rules. I compound my idiocy by spending another point of momentum on bonus time, when I could have just had True Grit up for a lot more efficient, and swing again on Corsair. So that's tack 8 versus 2s and 1s is enough for momentous 5 damage, reduced by 1 by Tough Hide. Vet Siren activates and she spends 2 points of momentum to clear knockdown on Corsair, and then moves closer to Tapper, buying an attack on him. So that is a tack of 4 versus 3s and 1s. I declare a counterattack, and he gets 3 net hits, which is enough for a momentous Dread Gaze with a push dodge, dodging herself out of my counterattack range, entirely wasting that point of momentum I spent to do so. I activate Friday, who jogs towards the centre of the pitch and then calls Scum over. She then dirty knives Corsair lying on the floor. Sakana activates and jogs directly towards Scum, who in turn procs his unpredictable movement. Sakana then coughs out a smoke bomb, giving as much possible cover to the fisherman. So Sakana buys an attack on poor old Scum. He is tack 3 due to the crowding out versus 5s and O's, and gets 1 net hit, which is enough for a momentous dodge. We have a brain fart and play as momentous push instead, manoeuvring the kitty cat about. I activate Scum, who is currently within 4 inches of his old mate Tapper. He shadow likes to make a 2-inch dodge out of the engagement zone of Sakana. I play the second card and I charge in to Corsair. Now, due to all of the crowd outs, the cover, Commanding Aura, etc., Kitty Cat is on tack 7 versus 2s and 1s, thanks to a dirty knived Corsair. I get 4 net hits, which is enough for a momentous 3 damage. And a 2 damage, which is reduced by Tough Hide on Corsair. I then spend momentum gained to heal Tapper. Ray Skills activates and Tentacles tags along for the ride. So I activate Spigot, who tools up Mash, making him a tool. I then pass the ball to Mash, entirely forgetting once more Spigot's football legend aura. And thanks to pass and move on the successful pass, I dodge Mash forward 4 inches. I then jog Spigot, heading off in Friday's general direction, just to try and give her a bit of defensive support. Tentacles activates, and the slippery cephalopod insinuates itself next to Hooper ran out of alliteration. Rubbish. So things have nicely devolved into a massive fight in the centre of the pitch, which as a Brewers player I'm very happy about right now. So I activate Mash and jog happily towards Corsair, offering him the ball. Here, hold this while I beat you about the face with a cricket bat. Now, after a lot of measuring, thankfully I'm outside of the Dread Gaze aura, but with Cover and Sakana and Commanding Aura and Scum and Tapper and everyone else that's involved in this fight, Mash is TAC 7 versus 2s and 1s thanks to Dirty Knives from Friday. Cheers, Friday. Which gives me 5 net hits, which is enough for a momentous 4 knockdown and a momentous push. I then spend that momentum gained to heal Tapper. See? Told you we got the rules wrong there. So at the end of the turn, Poison ticks and kills Corsair, taking him out, giving me my first 2 victory points of the game. Fish win the initiative and elect to go first, so a point of momentum for me. So Corsair gets 2 influence, Tentacles 2, Sakana 3, Kraken 2, Grayscales 1 and Vet Siren 2. I in turn give 5 to Tapper, 3 to Mash, 2 to Friday, 3 to Hooper, and Spigot and Scum get none. So the slimy squiddly puss squirts Squink into the face of Mash. Ran out of alliterations again. He then jogs nearer to Mash to try and get him into his engagement zone. He takes a parting blow from Friday. So Friday stabs at the octopus, what with parting blow and Cover and other people involved in the fight. That is TAC 6 versus 4s and 1s for 2 net hits, doing 2 points of damage. Activate Tapper, who swings on Kraken. That's TAC 6 versus 3s and Zeros for 3 net hits, which is a momentous knockdown. Tapper swings on Sakana, who declares counterattack. So that is TAC 10 versus 4s and 1 for 5 net hits. And I put up Commanding Aura. I'm not sure that was the right move. Maybe should have gone with a momentous knockdown. But hey, that's what I did. So thanks to Poised, or Poist maybe, as it should be, as he's a fish, he takes a counterattack swing and only has the 1 dice due to all of the penalties, which I explain in the following manner.
1 dice. 1 dice in heaven.
Excuse me. So that's 1 dice versus 3s and 0s, thanks to anatomical precision, which with 1 net hit is enough to dodge Sakana around. Still in the combat though. Tired of these nimbly-bimbly fish swinging from tree to tree. There's a deep cut reference. Tapper takes a swing on Sakana, getting 4 net hits for a momentous 4 damage. Tap swings again and again, gets 4 net hits, doing another momentous 4 damage. Buy another attack and swing on Sakana again, getting 3 net hits for good enough for a momentous knockdown this time. Tap swings again at now the 3 and 1 Sakana, thanks to the knockdown. 2 net hits, which is enough to make it 3 damage with Commanding Aura, leaving Sakana now on 3 wounds. I then remember Tapper's heroic play and give Scum an extra 2 influence. So sensibly Sakana activates next, trying to get some use out of him before he clearly dies. And he swings on his aggressor Tapper. Now, thanks to anatomical precision, he is defenses of only 3s and 0s and gets 2 net hits, which he elects to take the momentous dodge to try and move him away out of this combat. He then spends the point of momentum gained to heal himself up. He then buys another attack on Tapper, getting 2 net hits this time, which again he purchases the momentous dodge. I've bought a knockdown with Tapper, so attack 6 versus 4s and 1s, that is enough for 2 net hits, so that's a momentous knockdown. However, I don't claim the momentum as I can't counterattack. So I activate Hooper and jog him towards Sakana. Let's see if his activation is a little bit more successful than last turn. In turn, Tentacles gets a parting blow. So Tentacles' meager attack 3 is boosted to attack 5 due to the bonus for taking parting blow, with the penalty that you can only take tackle, damage or knockdown results, not the dodges or pushes that fill the vast majority of his playbook, as you can see on screen. So he gets 4 net hits, which is enough to wrap the playbook, doing 2 damage and 1 damage respectively, which is in turn reduced by Hooper's tough hide, the 2 damage becoming 1 and the 1 becoming 0. So I remember True Grit, giving Hooper an extra 2 tack, so that's TAC 9 versus 3s and 1s for 2 net hits for 3 damage with Commanding Aura, because I entirely forget to take Shove the Boot in this time. Remembered one, not the other. Second attack, same as the first, entirely forget to take Shove the Boot in, so that's TAC 9 versus 3s and 1s, 2 net hits for 3 damage. Much happier third swing from the Hoop, so that's TAC 9 versus 3s and 1s, for 7 net hits, getting a momentous 4 and 3 damage, which is enough to take out Sakana. So Hooper scores 2 victory points for the Brewers, bringing the total now to 4-0, and that is a point of momentum for the takeout. So Grayscales activates and jogs further into the melee, which suits me just fine. So Grayscale bonus times an attack against Mash, so that's tack 4 versus 3s and 1s, which is enough for 1 net hit for a momentous dodge. Mash counterattacks, and with all said and done, with all the bonuses and negatives from blind and such like, that is tack 5 versus 4 and 0s, gets 3 net hits, and cracks Grayskull in the face with his cricket bat for 3 points of damage. I activate Friday principally as an ablative activation at this stage and move into Grayscale's melee range. He then procs unpredictable movement and dodges away. Veteran Siren activates and uses her Shadow-like to get out of Hooper's melee engagement zone and then charges full steam ahead into Friday. So that's tack 9 from the charging Vet Siren versus Friday's 4s and 1s. Gets 4 net hits for a momentous 2 damage, putting up Dreadgaze and doing a momentous push. Vet Siren then pushes Friday away, ensuring that that counterattack that I just spent a point of momentum on goes entirely to waste. This and many other wasted counterattacks that have happened throughout the game really highlight to me the next thing that I need to start learning, which is when to counterattack. Just that sort of willy-nilly always going for a counterattack isn't always going to be the best course of action. I need to really start paying closer attention to my opponent's playbook so that I can more efficiently use the resource that I'm getting throughout the game. I activate Scum, who Shadow-likes out of his current position into a place where he can then spend the 2 influence he got from Aljax to charge Grayscales. So thanks to Commanding Aura and various other ganging ups, that is tack 10 versus Grayscale's 4s and 0s for 4 net hits, doing a momentous 3 damage and a regular 2 points of damage. So the counterattack from Grayscales is tack 5 versus Scum's 5s and 0s. He gets 2 net hits, which is enough for a double dodge, although he doesn't quite go the full distance that he can, seeking to remain outside of Hooper's melee range. Corsair activates and jogs back towards the centre of the pitch and casts Drag on Tapper successfully. Our 2 dice needing only 1/3 to make this come off, but as it is pushed directly towards this model, Tapper collides with Kraken's base and stops dead. So Mash lines up his cricket bat against Grayscales and uses it just as well as the current England team. I've got no idea if that's true. I don't watch cricket. And gets absolutely no hits whatsoever. Grayscales counterattacks with tack 6 and 3s and 1s thanks to the presence of tentacles in this fight. He gets 2 net hits, which is enough to tackle the ball. All of a sudden the fish have the ball. This is not a good sign or event, rather, as I'm led to understand it. I don't want the fish to have the ball. Quick, get it back. So I take another swing on Grayscales. I am tack 4 versus 4s and 0s, due to the presence of Dreadgaze and crowding outs and all that sort of stuff. So I get 3 net hits, which due to Commanding Aura is 3 points of damage. I buy and bonus time and another attack, so that's tack 4 versus 4s and 0s for 2 net hits, which is 2 points of damage, which is enough to take out the old fella of the sea. The ball from the takeout scatters pretty much directly straight back to Mash, so good work, fella, especially considering you were blinded through all of that. And that brings the score to 6-0. I am now out activating the Fisherman due to the 2 takeouts this turn, so Spigot can happily activate by himself and just jogs forward over the terrain, pretty much bringing the turn to a close. So the fish win the initiative for turn 4 and elect to give 6 influence to Corsair, 1 to Tentacles, 2 to Sakana, none to Kraken, 2 to Grayscales and 1 to Veteran Siren. I in turn put 2 on Friday, 3 on Hooper, 3 on Mash, none on Scum or Spigot and 5 on Tapper. Corsair activates and charges Tapper, so that's tack 6 versus 3s and 1s, gets 5 net hits, is a momentous 3 push. He buys and bonus times his second attack against Tapper, so that's 7 versus 3s and 1s, 3 net hits is a momentous knockdown on a Brewer. That won't do. The onslaught continues as he buys and bonus times another attack, so attack 7 versus 2s and 1s as I'm knocked down now, so that's 5 net hits is a momentous 3 push. There's a pattern emerging here, so he buys and bonus times another attack against Tapper, so it's tack 7 versus 2s and 1s. 5 net hits is enough for a momentous drag, harpooning poor Mash and dragging him into the fracas. And what is thankfully his last influence, that is a bought and bonus timed tack 7 attack versus mash, so 3s and 1s. 2 net hits is enough to do a momentous tackle. Again, the fish have the ball. Panic. Mash counterattacks terribly. Like, proper bad. Nothing whatsoever. Awful. I activate Hooper, who charges in against Corsair, getting it up to tack 10 versus Corsair's 3s and 1s, getting me 8 net hits, giving me 2 momentous knockdown results. The first of which is ignored by Corsair's Sturdy, but that second one lands perfectly. So the ball scatters away from Corsair, so the fish no longer have the ball. Turn off panic mode, and lands next to the downed tapper. I use a point of momentum on Hooper to activate True Grit and take another swing against Corsair. This time it is tack 8 versus the 2s and 1 of a knockdown Corsair, giving me 5 net hits for a momentous 4 damage. I then spend 2 momentum to clear conditions on tapper. Sakana activates and jogs forward, snapping the ball 2, and continues along his way, and then passes the ball to Veteran Siren. It is an entirely successful pass, and due to pass and move, Siren makes a 4-inch dodge forwards. Sakana's last point of influence going on a smoke bomb to try and protect his ailing team. So I activate the now no longer knocked down tapper, who jogs forward into position so that he can engage both Sakana and the knockdown Corsair. Hindsight is a wonderful thing, and I really should have swung on Sakana first in an attempt to knock him down so that I would be crowded out less, but instead I swing on Corsair, so that's tack 7 versus 2s and 1s, 5 net hits, allows me to put up Commanding Aura. I buy another attack on Corsair, so now tack 8 thanks to Commanding Aura versus 2s and 1s, 6 net hits, allowing me to wrap my playbook, and I go with momentous 4 and a regular 2 damage. So despite a Yahtzee of 1s, I managed to get 3 net hits in a tack 8 versus 2s and 1s attack on Corsair, which is enough for 3 points of damage, taking out the captain of the fish once again. So that's another point of momentum for the takeout, and that brings the score now to the critical 8-0, and we enter the final stages of the game. Tapper declares an attack against Sakana, who gets his free counter-attack. So that's tack 7 versus 4s and 1s is nothing. Well done, Taps. Good work. Sakana's counter-attack from Poist is tack 5 versus 3s and 1s, so that is a 3 net hits for a dodge, moving him further into cover. So Tapper swings on Kraken, who is 2s and 0s due to being knocked down, and again another Yahtzee of 1s, so that is 2 net hits for 3 points of damage, including Commanding Aura. So although Vet Siren is in an excellent position to score this turn, she needs momentum from somewhere, and in a flashback to the last game against the Morticians, that momentous damage result is hard to come by at this stage. So the fish activates Tentacles, who take a swing on Friday. So there's Tentacles attack of 3 versus Friday's defenses of 4s and 1s is 1 net hit, which is enough only to do 1 point of damage, and so doesn't generate the momentum needed to try and get a goal from Siren. I activate Friday, who shadow likes away from the Squiddly Puss straight towards Veteran Siren and has designs upon that ball. Friday is tack 3 due to the presence of said Squiddly Puss versus the 4s and O's of Siren. I get 1 net hit, which is enough to do the momentous tackle to steal the balls back from the fisherman. Cancel panic mode. Having retrieved the ball, Friday prepares to kick the ball across the pitch towards Spigot. He is sadly just outside of her kick range, so I know I'll be scattering, but fortunately it scatters exactly where I want it and snaps to Spigot. Oh, it's getting tense. John very sensibly plays max fixing, causing me to re-scatter the ball, seeing as it went exactly where I wanted it. Thankfully, the ball goes straight back to Spigot anyway, and snaps 2. If you're in any way confused about the snap 2 rules, as we were during the game and had to have a little bit of a look up, here they are on screen. Grayscales then activates and sprints up the pitch to engage Tapper and prepares to buy an attack on it. So that's Grayscale's tack 9, and due to the charge, so it's a charge, not a sprint, my bad, versus 3s and 1s and gets 3 net hits for a momentous where do they go. So there's that momentum that John sorely needed, but now doesn't have the ball to make use of it. So after that dodging by Grayscales, it is now just Kraken and Siren left to activate this turn. I activate Scum, who shadow likes and then goes jogging forward mainly as an ablative action, and frankly just to get in the way at this stage. Kraken activates, who foregoes his advance to stand up. Spigot jogs forward and unsnaps the ball, which promptly snaps back to mash. Vet Siren activates and shadow likes away from the engagement of Friday and then sprints across the lateral line of the pitch to engage Mash. Mash in turn unpredictably moves away, getting him out of Vet Siren's engagement. And with that, my next activation becomes very clear in my mind. So I activate Mash, he turns on Super Shot, jogs forward so that he is within 8 inches of goal, and despite forgetting football legend, lines up the shot and smashes the ball into the goal, bringing the game to a close, 12-0 to the Brewers. Oh, so there we go. That absolute marathon of a 3-hour game comes to a close, reduced to your viewing pleasure to a mere 30 minutes 18 seconds. That was pretty much spot on. Nice. John, thank you very much for the game, chap. We need to start playing on the clock because this has taken a long time to edit, and I'm not doing that again. Thank you very much to Darksphere, with whom I enjoy playing all my games down at Lambeth. If you're local, please do pop down and either have a game, get yourself on camera, or take advantage of the fact that frankly, I've never found a cheaper hobby shop in London. Right then, Furnace, third of the Blacksmith Guilds. Let's start with the model. Can we look at the detailing on that face? This is absolutely ridiculously beautiful. Any concerns that people have about metals and plastics and loss of detail, I think this for me is a massive no. This model is going to be absolutely fine. I get that this is probably a render. I get that even if it is a resin cast test print, that detailing on his face is absolutely amazing. I must admit, I am slightly not a big fan of the I've got a boiling pot of lava on my back to carry all my swords about in, but I'm prepared to forgive that for the rest of the model. Nice, big and chunky. He's got a huge apron style front in much the same way that Anvil did. And he could do with a larger beard, but that bever he's got above his neckline could well be holding a beard as far as I'm concerned. Phenomenal model. Love the big shield. I love the shield aesthetic that the Masters are going to have in the faction, and I like that some of the swords on his back are scabbarded, some of them are in the pot. I'd rather the swords on his waist, purely because, you know, back scabbards is an affectation invented by Robin Hood back in the 80s. Again, another deep cut and showing my age, but on the whole, I think this model is absolutely beautiful. Right then, front of the card, that artwork, amazing, totally represents what's on the model. But weirdly, the big thing that's going to stand out to me is that kick of 3-8. Naturally, goal scoring is something that we haven't really seen from the Blacksmiths on how they're going to be achieving it. And sort of my wish listing of how the Blacksmiths will play will essentially be forming a massive anvil, for want of a better phrase, in the centre of the pitch, and then knocking in long range shots. And this 3-8 looks like I'm getting exactly what I'm after. Looking at the rest of the stat line, little quicker than the rest so far. Tax 6 about where I'd expect it to be for a melee focused model, especially considering that tax 6. Lovely defences, 3s and 2s, influence 3s and 3s, which if he's captain will go up to 3s and 5, as we've now seen revealed from the blog. Playbook is nice. It's got some good pushes in around there to start moving things around. Some damage, not a vast quantity, but we'll come back to that. Tooled up is always a pleasure to see, and it's nice to see what the source of that will be in faction. Whether or not other people will have tooled up as well, it's feasible considering, you know, they are blacksmiths. I'm not entirely sure. Rowdy on a stick is lovely, especially as a 0, especially as an AoE effect. Be curious to see how that one plays out, but certainly a very, very solid front of the card as far as I'm concerned. Now then, the back of the card. This is where it's really at for this fella. Not that there's anything wrong with the front of the card. I was very impressed by it, but the back of the card really, really makes him stand out. Two things. One, Sentinel as a 1-inch aura. They talked, Steamforged that is, in the Vengeance Q&A about the idea of these sort of pillars, these rocks standing in the pitch, and the apprentices sort of running out and doing all the work and then nipping back behind these giant kite shields. And it's nice to see Sentinel replicated from Anvil's card now onto Furnaces, as this is clearly the mechanic by which that original vision has been realised. So that's nice to see, as is Fireforged. Situationally useful, but hey, situationally useful is better than useless, and I can see that being phenomenally good, especially against alchemists, obviously. Equally against brewers, for example, with Stoker kicking about, because there's a grudge match that's bound to happen at some point. The big one is Searing Strike. it reminds me of Meat Hook in many ways, in that her bleed and hooked conditions, or sustained effects even, don't require anything. If you hit them, if you hurt them, this happens. And reducing armor down and giving burning is huge. So this is both durability debuff, damage from the maintenance phase, and movement penalty for nothing that you weren't already going to be doing. This is a melee character who's going to be doing damage, then promptly doing a whole bunch of stuff on top, and this is huge. And I think maybe this is where a little bit of QQ comes in as the Blacksmith gets released and we see them being more played. Down into his legendary play, as of course all the masters have a legendary play, he gains himself +1 armor, which, considering where he is already in terms of 3-2s, going up to 3-3s for a turn, is going to make him very, very tanky, especially considering that Come On Lads AoE that he can pop down. Naturally, with all of the master legendary plays, the big thing is he captain? Is he going to be giving out Searing Strike in a 6-inch pulse? 6-inch aura, big difference to the rest of his team. And right now, I can't judge the value of this. The reason I say that is I need to see the models that he's buffing. Because if they're all like Sledge, then phenomenal. This is going to be absolutely amazing, and perhaps too amazing. If, however, we've now seen the strong arm of the blacksmiths in the 3 models that we've seen already, and the rest are far more utilitarian support or scoring pieces, then this might not be useful at all. So, in my mind, Anvil still looks to be the most likely captain. A, he's got the biggest beard, and B, C, A. But his legendary play right now looks far more useful to me than Furnace's legendary play when they are captains. Whether that will change as I look at it more, and as more sort of internet wisdom comes out, and of course when we see more blacksmiths being released, which shouldn't be too long, seeing as Gen Con is now not a million miles away. So there we go, that's my first look at Furnace. I'm very pleased with him, I am indeed, I have to say, especially that model. I will draw this particularly long episode 3 of Don't Touch the Beard and Furnace preview to a close. Thank you very much for watching. If you have enjoyed it, please feel free to like, as it helps other Guild Ball enthusiasts find this video. Similarly, if you want to hear more of the nonsense that I produce, click on the beard. Now, the more eagle-eyed and observant amongst you may have noticed the high fidelity t-shirt I was wearing throughout this interview. That is a Malifaux podcast I produce with 3 other idiots who each month or so choose a model within a set band and argue the merits and lack of merits for that particular model. The only rules being there can be no agreement. Even if we agree with that person, we must disagree. So if you're interested in that and want to hear more of the sound of my own voice, I know I do, please feel free to click the link and you'll be subscribed to that podcast as well. Thank you very much, folks. Have a good day.